Welcome to Redtastic. Story 1. I, 29 male, need to share a recent incident that has left me questioning a few things. For context, I'm a professional photographer with my own business and I take my work seriously, since I want to build something out of it. A few weeks ago, my aunt approached me to be the photographer for her wedding. I saw it as an opportunity to contribute to a special occasion. I have worked for family members in the past and haven't really had a bad experience until now. I was kinda excited to be a part of my aunt's wedding. I genuinely wanted to make it memorable for her, so I offered her a significant discount on my services and threw in an engagement shoot at no extra cost if she needed one. As the wedding preparations progressed, my aunt started to assign a few other duties to me as to-dos for the wedding that wouldn't fall under a photographer's job. This was a gray area that I hadn't dealt with before, but I didn't want to be difficult, so I agreed. Although I did feel slightly overwhelmed with additional responsibilities that were being assigned to me unrelated to photography. But it's fine, whatever. Chalk it up as family taking family for granted. And I was gonna look past all of this. It's just one day, I guess. But oh boy, that wasn't all. The final blow came a few days ago when I discovered that my aunt had not included me in the head count for the wedding. She called me and told me how the wedding expenses are ramping up and asked me to provide takeout meals for myself, my assistant, and also the DJ crew since she hadn't budgeted for their meals. The lowest point, she nonchalantly mentioned that we could help ourselves to any leftover food. But we shouldn't expect much, so the takeout may be necessary for us to get since it's a whole day at the venue. Honestly, my aunt has a reputation for being mildly stingy, but I thought it was just a small family pile-on and not something to this extent. I was so taken aback. And it's not even about something so frivolous like food. I was just simply shocked and hurt to learn that I was essentially considered an uninvited guest at a family event where I was supposed to be working. I obviously objected, but she said she's paying me for work anyways. Mind you, on an extremely subsidized rate of my services that she so gladly accepted early on, and that I should use that money to support the meals for the crew and myself and stop being difficult. Not only did my aunt fail to acknowledge the value of my services, but she also expected me to bear the financial burden of my own sustenance during her wedding where I'll be on my feet working full time. I tried to carefully explain how her actions were unjustifiable and had left me feeling undervalued. Unfortunately, instead of being understanding, she became defensive and dismissive. She said I was making this wedding more stressful for her, and she argued that I should be grateful for the exposure and the opportunity, in a field I very much am already successful at. I flatly told my aunt that I was no-go and rescinded my offer to photograph her wedding. I expressed my disappointment and explained that I couldn't continue working under such circumstances. The fallout from this confrontation was immense, as my aunt lashed out accusing me of being ungrateful and selfish, and practically a whole rant about how I am a child, and that I will never be successful and whatnot. She called me a dick for ruining her big day since she had not budgeted for a photographer because she always planned to use me. Now I'm left feeling like an ass. Am I the a-hole? Update. My aunt is definitely not a good person. She quite literally badmouthed me to the entire family, and I've had even random relatives call me up and tell me off because they heard my aunt's embellished account of what happened. I had a few strongly worded voicemails from my aunt now, and I've decided to block her number. There is no place for such bad energy in my life, even if it's from family. Thanks for listening to me and providing your perspectives on this. Your aunt is definitely not a good person, and she's also a big a-hole. You were about to render your services for a discounted amount, and yet she didn't even think to add you and your crew as part of the guest list. She wanted you to have leftovers. Leftovers? Who does that to family? I hope you told everyone who called you your side of the story. Your aunt doesn't deserve your services. If she really wanted you to be a photographer, then she should have respected and appreciated you. Story 2. On mobile, throwaway cause people know my main, the usual. Brother is 13 male, I'm 16 female. So my birth mother got into pills after my little brother started school. My dad found out, tried to get her help for a year, then gave her an ultimatum after it started getting really bad, and she lost her job. My mother still got custody of us every other week because she was, at the time, good at hiding her addiction. My dad eventually got full custody of us and we moved in with him, and later he married our amazing stepmom. My birth mother is now in the hospital because all her drug use is catching up with her and she's in really rough shape. We have been told by our grandmother that it's 50-50 if birth mother will ever leave the hospital. My brother has been in a nasty mood since we were told, snapping at everyone, especially stepmom, who I guess he blames now for our parents' divorce. He's also mad that thanks to the current situations in our state, we cannot go visit her. During one of his rants at me, I lost it and yelled at him that birth mom was a useless pill pusher who put her own addiction above her own children, and how I had to take care of him when we were visiting her. He told me I was misremembering, that she only got into drugs after dad stole us from her. He asked me how I could forget all the fun times we had, camping in the living room, watching TV all night, and making our own breakfasts, while our birth mother slept in, and how he used to cuddle with her on the couch while she napped. I told him all of that was wrong. We slept in the living room because we didn't have a room or bed. Making our own breakfast was me trying to find something for him to eat in the morning, because birth mother never brought food for us, and their naps were him cuddling with mom when she was passed out from either pills or being out all night. I then went on to yell at him to be grateful, because thanks to dad and stepmom, we are living a comfortable life, and we are actually loved by our stepmom. I told him how I would get physically sick at the idea of going to birth mother's apartment because I knew I would be in charge of taking care of him at the age of 9. I told him that I didn't expect him to remember what happened as he was little, but there was a legit investigation and our birth mother was found to be an unfit parent. I then told him that if he wanted to romanticize his past, to go ahead, but be respectful to our real parents. Well, he went crying to dad. Dad said that I need to apologize to my brother for yelling, as little brother is trying to deal with the probable death of his birth mother. He has good memories of her and you need to be patient with him. I told him that I would when my brother apologizes to stepmom for all the stuff she puts up with from him. Dad said he's aware and he and stepmom are dealing with that and not to worry. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Dad talked about dealing with birth mother's probable death. She isn't dead yet, as far as I know. No a-holes here, OP. You're both grieving in your own way, as children do. Please be both more patient with your brother and yourself. You suffered a huge trauma at that age. I hope you both are in therapy to cope. As a final thought, it doesn't help to illuminate your brother on the truth now while he's clouded in grief. He'll have to get there on his own. He's angry right now and lashing out. Grieving children often do. You don't have to apologize for being right. But maybe you could apologize for being hurtful and explain that he is hurting people around him right now, and that you hope he can see how supportive and loving his environment is. Now for some comments. No a-holes here. Your brother has good memories of your mom because you were such an amazing sister. And unfortunately, you protecting him hurt you badly. You're not the a-hole for lashing out in a natural way. Maybe you should ask your dad to help you find a therapist, to help you with your pain and let your brother deal with how he can. Amazing sister needs to focus on herself now. No a-holes here. I've been in your shoes. Abusive parents aren't always remembered as abusive by all siblings. Your brother is going through a grieving process, and while your mother may have made you, it's not your job to parent him. Telling him the truth was not necessarily wrong, but yelling at him or trying to get him to conform to how you feel about the situation is. I hope you find a way through this, because the situation definitely sucks. But try to let yourself be a sister and not the authority in all of this. No a-holes here. My heart really goes out to both of you. He's a child with a very ill parent that he loves. And one of the ways kids express grief is by lashing out. It sounds like your dad and stepmom understand that and are prepared to cope with it. One of the things that comes with being a parent is understanding that sometimes your kids will hate you. It's okay, you don't have to fight that fight on their behalf. Although it's kind of you to stand up for them. It sounds like you took very good care of him at your mom's house, even though it shouldn't have been your role. be glad he has good memories of those times. Story 3. I, 29 female, have had a problematic half-sister, 37 female, who several years ago I went no contact with. Backstory: about 5 years ago, my sister was caught lying and created a very hurtful situation for my mother, which resulted in my niece not allowing her to see her great-grandchild, which crushed my mom. To avoid an overly lengthy story, I won't dive into that. I have always felt the need to defend my mother. My sister felt the need during this time to make vague, rude comments on Facebook about my mom, and I called her out on these comments publicly. My sister lost her shit. She has a self-made business she runs off of social media, and she claimed me calling her out was tainting her reputation. Although she brought this to Facebook to begin with. I work in healthcare, and at the time, I was newer to my hospital. She began saying she knew I went into her chart, and her doctor told her she saw my name on her chart, and she saved me and told her doctor, hinting that maybe she should tell this doctor she changed her mind. For information, doesn't matter if you give someone permission. In healthcare, you cannot for any reason look at anyone's chart besides your patient. This was completely fabricated. I would never invade someone's privacy like that, nor would I risk my new career on something so dumb. At the time, being new to my career, I went into complete panic mode. I wish I knew now just how ridiculous this sounded, and would have brought out the facts anyway. Short story, I ended up telling my new manager and my account was audited, and I was completely in the clear, as I knew I would be. But even after that, my sister still stuck to her insane story. I dropped her, blocked her on everything, went no contact, telling my mom someone who makes up lies like that is dangerous. Now 5 years later, my mom and her have made up, and my sister mentioned to my mom, wanting to reach out to me to apologize. I refuse. My mom seems to think I need to have a forgiving heart, but how can I trust she won't try and slander my name again? Am I the a-hole for refusing to reconcile with my sister? I'm willing to go the rest of my life never speaking to her again. Now for some comments. My judgment: she is clearly the a-hole for what she did before. She's not an a-hole for wanting to make amends. You are not an a-hole whether you choose to make amends or not. Personally, I would accept her apology but wouldn't ever trust her. Not the a-hole. I've had family I've written off due to how they've done things to screw other family members over. One thing I will say is when 2 of the written off members died in a short time, less than a month between them, my brain had that conflict between mourning them being gone and being thankful that they were gone so they couldn't harm anyone else. In the end, my mind got over it and I just don't think about them much anymore. Not the a-hole, regardless of whether you let her apologize or not. I cut my toxic AF older sister out of my life 3 years ago, this week. My mom has been asking me to reach out and make amends. Although I'm not the one who needs to make amends by any means. Long story there. I straight refuse and remind her every time that what my sister did was inexcusable, and that I don't need to have someone in mine or my kids' lives who won't even acknowledge what they did was wrong. Sharing genetic material does not give someone the right to be a shitty person, and doesn't mean we have to accept that shittiness or allow it into our lives, period.